Greetings and welcome from me, astrologer Patrick Arundell. Today, in the latest of my deep dive videos, I'm going to explore the journey of the feisty Mars through the sign of diplomacy, Libra, where it's detrimented. This begins on August the 27th, and it's just over 6.5 weeks through to October the 12th. What are the themes of Mars? It governs two zodiac signs, Aries, but also Scorpio. And also, what can we expect from its host, the sign of Libra? How will Mars fare here? Also, what does the event chart tell us? So when Mars exactly enters Libra, what are the other planetary influences that are going to be influential during this period of time? But also, I'm going to share with you two major aspects which occur at the start of October, which are incredibly powerful. And then I'm going to go through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces to give you a flavour of what you can expect for your sign during this transit. If you are new to my channel, thank you so much for joining me. This is very much a community. If you have any thoughts, please share them. I do try to interact with each one. If you're a returning visitor, thank you so much for joining me once more. If you've already subscribed, I really appreciate your support. If you've yet to do so, please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. Also, I'd just like to share with you an exciting opportunity with this year, 23, whizzing by. Year 2024 is racing towards us. If you order your personal forecast for next year now, based on your unique birth data, I'll prepare the rest of 23 free of charge. And in my special package of 30% off, you will also get your character analysis report, your life roadmap, which will give you a much more intimate understanding of the patterns that have been playing out in your life, but how you can seize the opportunities and work with the challenges that much more carefully. Please see underneath this video for more. So Mars moves into Libra on August the 27th at 1:20 p.m. Universal Central Time. It's going to be there for 46 days, moving into Scorpio on October the 12th, one of the two zodiac signs that it rules. Let's just explore the archetypes of Libra. Libra is the 7th zodiac sign. It's an air sign, so it's very much about communication. It has an appreciation of diplomacy, listening, of fairness, but also it is a feminine sign, but I don't mean this in a binary way. So we all have a mixture of masculine and feminine energies, so nothing to do with our sexual orientation or our identity. But the sign of Libra is also about balance, fairness. It's great for listening. It can be about our relationships and partnerships, the way we present ourselves, and of course, diplomacy. But Mars rules two zodiac signs, Aries and also Scorpio, and it's a masculine planet, and it's known as the lesser malefic, the greater malefic being Saturn. Now, the irony is that they're actually in a quincunx as this journey begins. If we think that Mars is about getting things done and Saturn can be about resistance, that can create tension. And because Mars is in the sign of relating and Saturn is in the sign of culmination, Pisces, which is very much to do with the psychological domain, I think our relationships, particularly over the first week of this transit, we just need to be aware that some fears and anxieties or psychological hang-ups could inhibit some of our interactions with other people. But let's explore the archetypes of Mars. It's very much about action, initiative, thrust, spark, drive, passion. It is very much also about desire, impulse, and instant gratification. It can be impatient. It can see us being focused very much on sexual conquest, but it also can make us rather irritable at times too. Now, Mars in the sign of Libra is technically in detriment. This is because Mars governs Aries and Libra is opposite. Mars is also in detriment in Taurus because that's opposite Scorpio. But I feel here Mars can help us to embolden our boundaries. So if we need to deal with people, and the 7th house in traditional astrology is about open enemies that we're not so keen on, maybe colleagues that we don't particularly like, maybe neighbours, maybe we are quite a sporty person, Mars in Libra can help us to be a bit firmer about how we interact. But certainly, if you are someone who does need to be a bit more assertive, Mars can definitely help the process. But if you are a competitive person and you enjoy those kind of sports that are one-to-one, like tennis, badminton, table tennis, squash, I feel that Mars in Libra can be a very helpful influence. But one of the things that Libra is very much about is relating. So Mars here could give us a heightened appreciation of the thrill of the chase, or coming into contact with someone we don't particularly like, and actually in some kind of nefarious way enjoying the combat, even if it is purely diplomatic and verbal. So I mentioned that Mars and Saturn are in that quincunx, so that's really important because it means right through the 6.5-week period, I feel our desire to work on gaining more respect with Mars in the 7th house can in some ways be inhibited by that psychological energy. And unfortunately, Saturn therefore is in the sign of hidden enemies and Mars of open enemies. So we've got the lesser malefic and the greater malefic in tension as this process begins. Now, for sure, Mars does forge a dissociate positive angle to Pluto, but it is only just coming out of a draining and confusing opposition with Neptune, and it's still there within 3 degrees, so still very powerful. Now, I mentioned about the major aspects that are set to be coming. Mars is opposite Chiron, the wounded healer, on September the 24th. It's also opposite the North Node on the 5th of October. But the one that really stood out for me, apart from the quincunx with Saturn, is that from the 3rd to the 12th of October, Mars will be square Pluto. And Pluto is, of course, the modern higher octave ruler of Scorpio. So we have the 2 rulers of Scorpio are squabbling as we go through the first third of October. What will that mean? Well, I think any kind of politics around a relationship will really be revealed during that period of time. If someone wants to have power over us, Mars can see us pushing back. And this could be particularly so around professional relationships, to be honest, because Pluto will still be in Capricorn at this point, doesn't move back into Aquarius until next year on the 21st of January. And of course, Capricorn very much about the old way things have been done. So the old conventions, people who have had control in a very long-standing way. So I feel that Mars being in Libra can see our desire for fairness really being activated very powerfully in that first third of October. Now, please stay with me as I go through each of the 12 zodiac signs from Aries through to Pisces. So Aries, if something has been exasperating you, particularly if you feel that someone's not being very honest and open with you, you may decide to go on the front foot. Just remember that Mars in the 7th house in a natal chart can make us so demanding of receiving respect from others that it can be counterproductive. So you will still need to use a little bit of subtlety. What I'd ask you to think of with the Libran energy is the steel fist in the velvet glove. So even if you feel that someone's been playing some games, entirely possible with Saturn in retrograde in your 12th house, and that you really don't deserve to be on the end of it, how you front up this situation is going to require some delicacy, but you can do it. Because your ruler is Mars, you understand its energy. And you also understand that you are someone that makes things happen, and some people, frankly, can be very jealous of that. So if there is some negativity around you at the moment that you don't quite understand, whether it's in a collective sense with colleagues, in a community, or in a one-to-one relationship, by all means use Mars's energy to be that much more assertive, but do it in a careful way. That's going to render much greater results than really blasting back. Because once we do that, of course, we do at some level give away our power. So that's the story for you. It's an opportunity for you to reinforce your boundaries, make it clear what your expectations are, and definitely don't settle for second best, but just also be aware that there may be some lingering psychological issues from your past that could in some ways be inhibiting some of your potential for interactions in the here and now in a romantic context if you're hoping to meet somebody new. So you may need to work through those Saturn 12th house energies. And if you're clear and you feel you are at peace with the past, I feel Mars is giving you the encouragement to take the initiative and be bold and see where it leads. Now for you, Taurus, Mars moves into your personal 6th house. So where you're needing to find balance with Libra's hosting help is around your diet, around your physical activities, and around the obligations and responsibilities you have to others. But Mars will give you extra stamina in this part of your situation. It's just that your social world or some of your involvements with other people could be a little bit of a drain on you. So if there is someone that you may even be very fond of them, but they're quite needy and you're needing to just look after your own self, then you're going to have to prioritize a little bit. But what you can do is use the energies of Libra to recast the situation in a delicate way. So the Libran energies can help you to be diplomatic about making any changes. But if you are in a job where you don't actually feel there is a long-term future and you're not getting much personal satisfaction or gratification from it, I think you're really being asked over this next 6.5 weeks to really think carefully about what you could do to change that. And particularly at the start of October when Mars goes into that square with Pluto, because at that point, if you are feeling resentful that it's more give than get, that's going to become even greater at that point. The frustration will mount. So the 6th house is about measuring our energies in a proportionate way. It's not about doing too much. Mars can be about ego, of course, and in the 6th house it can be more self-sacrificing. That's not a problem as long as it's all in balance for you. So Gemini, for you, Mars moves into the 5th house. A gorgeous location, frankly, because this is going to give you added confidence about your skills, artistry and creativity, but also a greater sense of your sex appeal, your allure. So expect to feel that much more desirable over the next 6.5 weeks. Now, perhaps a catch with Saturn being in the quincunx as this process begins is that professionally, if you feel your talents deserve more recognition, you may not quite get what you exactly want straight away. So patience, as ever, with Saturn, very important in order to deliver on your talents, Mars in the 5th house. But if you do want to up your social interaction, this certainly will help. But also, from the 3rd through to the 12th of October, you could encounter someone who's really going to make your pulse race. And you may find this person very hard to resist. But will it be someone you really actually like? And if you're in an existing relationship, it is also possible that some politics can creep in across that period, perhaps to do if you feel that you're being a little bit controlled or someone's being a bit jealous or clingy. That also could be something that's revealed at that point. So Cancer, Mars moving into Libra is your 4th house. Very redolent of the energies that you really appreciate around security, family and home. But Mars, of course, can be a hustle-bustle influence, and it can also be rather impatient. So if you don't live in the place you really want to be, and with Saturn in the part of your situation to do with escape, adventure and independence, you could really feel penned in, which is not a very comfortable feeling. But what Mars can also do is see you roll up your sleeves, take a breath, and find the inner resources and the tenacity, a massive part of your nature, to make the best of what you have. And that could be remodeling where you're living, redecorating, moving furniture around, decluttering, setting some firm boundaries in terms of who does what, in terms of the domestic chores. And that can be a way that you can make this work for you productively. Now, later on in October, from the 3rd to the 12th, Mars is in a right angle with Pluto in your opposite sign. Think back over the last 15 years since 2008, huge changes around your relationships. There could be some more tension to come, but it could be around a tie with someone you're quite close to. Maybe you feel someone's not tuning in to your emotional needs quite as well as they could, because you have a tendency to avoid confrontation. It can see you putting off actually asserting what you really need. So I think the big encouragement from Mars in that right angle with Pluto at the start of October, if not before, is to make sure that you do tell people exactly how you feel and exactly what you expect. So Leo, for you, Mars moves into your 3rd house. This is a part of your situation which can quicken your desire to achieve things, liven up your thinking, but it can definitely add to your impatience if things don't happen at the speed of light, which the 3rd house really likes. However, the angle with Saturn in house 8, that's where you're sharing things, where you're closely invested in an emotional or physical relationship. And if your point of view is not being heard by the other person, that can also create some frustration. So Virgo, for you, Mars moving into Libra is your 2nd house. This is everyday money. It's the foundations of your world, but it's also your self-worth. And Mars almost demands that we're respected. So if you encounter someone who in some way seems to judge you because your immediate financial circumstances aren't good, and perhaps that's possible with Saturn in the 7th house of relating, it could really infuriate you. But what Mars can also do over the next 6.5 weeks is give you a lot of motivation to improve your financial lot. But it can also see you tempted by calorific goodies. Mars is about desire. The 2nd house can be about anything sensual. Also, from the 3rd to the 12th of October, Mars is squaring up with Pluto. And your desire to splash out during that period of time, or to pursue someone that you find to be extremely alluring, may also be very hard to resist. But just be aware, with Saturn in your opposite sign, whatever your approach to eating, drinking, or money, someone could see it a little bit differently to you. So Libra, for you, Mars returning to your sign is a really good news story. Forget the detriment, the technical detriment. It's been working its way through your 12th house for the last 6 weeks or more, which is really tenuous. At times you may have felt very vulnerable and very sensitive, and at other times furious at any kind of perceived injustices. What Mars will do in your sign is it's going to bolster you. Everyone's physical vitality at this particular time is somewhat challenged because of Saturn's opposition to the Sun. But for you, I feel that this is going to give you an ability to move into the moment, get more focused on what's really important to you. It's true that Saturn does continue in your 6th house of health, so you can't go overboard in terms of what you want to do. You need to focus on the things that are tightly focused. So if you prioritize initially through this transit, you'll gain more from it. Now, from the 3rd to the 12th of October, as Mars goes square Pluto, anyone you've encountered since 2008 who you feel has been totally unfair, possibly around a family dynamic or your emotional life, the chances are you are really going to, quite uncharacteristically, be extremely outspoken in terms of asserting your side of the story. So Scorpio, Mars moves into your 12th house, which is very subterranean. What Mars 12th house transits can do is evoke a range of emotions, but usually to do with unresolved conflicts or hurts or angers that we may have felt that we've dealt with, that suddenly Mars has this incredible ability to provoke deep within us, and we can react to situations in a way that even ourselves are not expecting. So that's possible. Also, because Saturn is in your 5th house of romance, if you're not happy in a current relationship, the next 6.5 weeks are really going to be important, because you may have to make some really decisive decisions, particularly with Uranus in your sector of relating going retrograde as August comes to a close for 5 months. That also can see you thinking very carefully about relationships. If you're not in a relationship at the moment, I think Mars being in your 12th house is asking you to dive deep to find out if there is any residual energy you still need to work through. Also, from the 3rd to the 12th of October, some stuff could come into the open that you would rather didn't, and it may be some rather sensitive information that you feel that someone's gossiping about, or something you've shared with someone in confidence, and they may not necessarily keep to that side of the agreement. So I would be very, very cautious during that period of time. But once Mars returns to your sign on the 12th of October, you'll really move into your power in a very positive way. In fact, as October goes on, by the end of the month, you'll really be getting back into tip-top form. But from now until then, a lot of psychological energy is being aroused. And if there is anger, which of course Mars can be about, that has been put to one side and not dealt with, now you have a great opportunity to really delve deep, see what you can discover, and work some things out and release what's no longer serving your greater good. So Sagittarius, Mars moves into the part of your situation to do with your connections to others, your network, your friendships, your alliances, your higher values. Now Mars is the planet of I, of ego, but in the 11th house it's able to let go of that more. So you could find yourself doing things for the common good. So pitching in a community situation and volunteering your time or energies. But what about Saturn forging that quincunx? Well, if there are friends that you've got that don't really understand you emotionally, I feel they could make you feel quite exposed and insecure. So do be conscious of that part of any links that you make. You know, we all know that people have a lot of Facebook friends, for example. We don't necessarily know all those people intimately. I think it's better to stick to the people you really trust during this transit, to be honest. And then from the 3rd to the 12th of October, you may be tempted to go for something in terms of a longer term plan that requires some money or investment. And I would just hold back a little bit, because Mars squaring with Pluto is a very compulsive influence, and you could be tempted to pitch into something that in the fullness of time you may view in a different way. So just try to slow down your decision making around finance in that first third of October. So Capricorn, for you, Mars soars right to the top of your solar horoscope. This gives you an opportunity to articulate your ambitions and goals in a very purposeful way over the next 6.5 weeks. Because Saturn, your ruler, is in a retrograde but applying to the position of Mars at the outset of this transit, it will be important to pick your words carefully and to articulate them shrewdly, something you have a talent for, in order to get the right impact. But in general, I feel that this is going to empower you. It's going to give you more confidence, more assertion. Just be aware that if you're born right at the start of Capricorn, that there is a square that applies to this position of Mars. So don't try too hard. Just let things unfold and go about things in your natural, very disciplined, step-by-step way. And also from the 3rd through to the 12th of October, if there is an opportunity to really make progress, the chances are you're going to really put all of your energy into seizing the moment. But there is a potential trap, because you could dominate a situation so much, and perhaps it's to do with someone you don't like and you're taking them down a little bit, that it could end up being a little bit of an empty victory. So just be aware of how you use your personal power in the first 3rd of October. So Aquarius, for you, Mars enters Libra and your 9th house, which is very much to do with galvanizing your existence in a more vital, spontaneous way, creating greater variation, being more independent, freedom loving, doing some rugged pursuits or traveling, studying a new course that gives you greater knowledge. But it's certainly about expansion, whereas Saturn, your traditional ruler, is in retrograde in the part of your situation to do with your finances, so retraction. So the two are interacting. So if you're tempted to splash out on some big project, I really would resist that. But if you can find ways to make your life more interesting and do it in a way that fits your budget, then this can work for you really well. Now, early on in October, with Pluto coming into the mix and squaring up with the position of Mars. Mars in the 9th house is very much about expansion, and Pluto in the 12th house is very much about deep psychology. Because the 9th house can also be about higher truths, it's possible that an injustice can really hit home in the first 3rd of October, and you may be tempted to really ventilate something that's been festering away in the depths of your being for a very long time. This could even have some kind of legal or contractual dimension, but it's important when Pluto and Mars are in a right angle to make sure that we don't do something that gives us some kind of short-term victory, but actually in some ways doesn't ennoble us. So just be conscious of that. So Pisces, for you, Mars arriving in the sign of Libra is the 8th house. A little bit of irony there, because that's very much a flavour of Scorpio, which Mars rules. But the 8th house is where we're most devoted or most invested, and it can be where we feel most possessive too. So this could be around money, could be around a sexual relationship. Because Saturn's in your 1st house, if in some ways you feel your conflicts in your need to be an individual with some involvement that you've got, whether it is an investment or it is a relationship, that's going to be the burning question over the next 6.5 weeks. But once Mars goes into that square with Pluto from the 3rd to the 12th of October, you could have some big questions about your long-term future, because if you do feel that a relationship just has too many dramas, there's too many psychological tugs of war, whether it is about jealousy, about control of time, different values, all of that could be revealed in that early part of October. However, if you're single and you want to bring a much more intimate dimension to your relationships, you could find yourself yearning for that very, very deep bond, and that could see you becoming more active in terms of how you meet somebody. But also, this can be a time when you become much more determined, if you're an entrepreneurial spirit, to try to reimagine your situation, and you can find a lot of spark and desire to do precisely that. It's been a real pleasure being with you. Thank you so much for joining me. Please remember to check out those year 2024 horoscope and astrology deep dives, which is underneath this video. But for now, stay safe, take care, good luck. Please like, comment, share or subscribe.